Welcome back to Bite Size Magic. Today, I'm hanging out with Blake and Chase from Casting Cost. This was a really fun conversation, and it honestly just felt like three dudes hanging out at the LGS after jamming some cEDH. In this video, we're going to talk about the current state of the meta, how different decks can adapt to the turbo winter we've all been experiencing, and how to adapt empathy into your politics to really look at the human component of this social game. I wanted to shout out our sponsors. The first is Doot Loot. They're one of the best places to go if you're looking for rare Japanese and Russian foils, signed and altered cards, and they work with altruists from the community to provide these to you before they reach the public. In addition, they do giveaways on their channels, and they have an amazing selection of these cards. If I ever go and buy Japanese and Russian cards, Doot Loot is the first place I go. You can see my collection has a bunch of my favorite Russian and Japanese foils, and I've just been growing it since I've partnered with Doot Loot. Last week, they gave away a foil etched Timna and Dargo in Japanese, and we're going to be continuing these monthly giveaways. So definitely go support them. Go check out their Discord at discord.gg/dootloot. They also do monthly giveaways, so you have a great chance to win some free cardboard. Next, I want to shout out Mana Vault Proxies. Having a US-based proxy service that sources such high quality and affordable proxies is such an important part of our game. I wouldn't be able to play this format at all if proxies weren't legal, and Mana Vault is a great place that's making them super affordable and really easy to get. I can't recommend them enough, and if you'd like to go check them out, you can even get 5% off your order by using the code SNACK at checkout. I'm gonna order a deck I'm super excited about playing, which is Lady Octopus, and hopefully that's coming soon, but they're gonna be working with us doing giveaways with the channel. At the end of this video, we're actually going to be giving away one of their decks, so make sure you stick around for that. Finally, a quick word about some events that we're going to be going to in the future. For my SoCal players, I'll also be at Crowning Achievements 2 at Crown City Games on November 22nd, and then at Lost Level Card Shop on December 6th for another special event. I hope to see some of you there. I would love to jam games if you're in the area. But yeah, other than that, let's jump into this conversation with Blake and Chase. Welcome everyone back to Bite Size Magic. I'm Zach, also known as Snack on Discord. Today I have a super fun video. It's going to be me, Blake, and Chase from Casting Cost, just talking about Magic, talking about cEDH. I'm sure we'll go in a billion different directions, but thank you guys so much for coming on. Do you want to just do a quick intro and tell everyone who you are if they haven't heard about you already?
Yeah, so I'm Blake.
I'm Chase.
Yeah, and then we run a channel called Casting Cost cEDH. We're just essentially like two guys from Kentucky that are kind of like filming the process of us just trying to get better at this game. So we talk like a lot of weird theory, play stuff on the channel, cover like tournaments, and just make fun videos. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Things cEDH related.
I have nothing else to add to that. We do pretty much, we cover a lot of content for cEDH, between gameplays, sometimes deck techs, tournament breakdowns, or our regular podcast episodes, just going through a lot of different things right now for our channel, just kind of documenting our own journey in the cEDH space and just trying to get better, as well as just figuring out what we want to talk about on a weekly basis. So yeah, that's who we are.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. My first question, where'd you guys get Casting Cost? What's the origin of the name?
Yeah. So before Chase started making videos with me, I used to make like actual casual Commander videos. With one. Yeah. So with some of my other buddies. So like the channel got started back in like 2016, 2017. I was tournament grinding Yu-Gi-Oh! And doing all sorts of other stuff. And it had like totally different name. It was actually called like Rogue Sworns 101 because the archetype I played was Light Sworns. So I would do deck techs where I would build like weird strategies with that. Eventually, quit playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Got into Magic because all my buddies jumped ship. And then we were having a really hard time getting the power level kind of like honed in to where we could all play games and not just have like feels bad moments. So I finally just like put my foot down and I was like, look, I'm going to just like draw up some rules. Like if this is good for everybody, cause like I was kind of one of the offenders of like, I wanted to play a little higher power. I created a thing where we would play like $50 decks. No card in the deck, including the commander, could be over $5, and you had to basically build your whole deck for under $50. And it couldn't be any over, like a penny over, too bad. Like, nope. And so then I started doing deck techs on those decks, and I was basically saying like the casting cost of the decks because like they were cheap decks, they were budget decks. And so we would make videos like that. And then we were also talking about the casual format. And I put out a couple of the deck techs, and then eventually people just wanted Rule Zero discussions for like every video. And I was like, I fucking hate this format. I'm tired of this. And then I just started playing CEDH. And then Chase, I met Chase over at a Magic event. Well, I met him and we played at a Magic event, and then we shared some words over a buffalo chicken pizza, and the podcast was born.
Yeah. That's literally how it happened. Like, we had like little to no prior knowledge of one another. We had not played very many games. We just literally went to a tournament, and then we met up like a couple times after that tournament, and we were just like, let's start doing videos. It's just
nice.
Fuck
romance began.
Absolutely.
I've told this story before, but like I was still very new to CEDH. Like the first actual game I played, like I just showed up and there was already a pod firing, but it was 3 people, and I sat down and somebody handed me what they called like an upgraded precon, and it was a Pantlaza deck that they had thrown like a Jeweled Lotus and a Mana Crypt in, and like maybe one other thing, and I just cooked everybody on that deck. I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, I want to play some more of this. And then after that, I started playing Xur. Like I already had my Xur deck, so I was playing it. And then we went to that tournament. I remember talking to Chase because we were trying to get reps in before going down there. And he told me it was on cEDH, and I had no knowledge of the format. I just knew that there was like Planeswalker cEDH and like good cards. And I looked at Chase and I was like, are you on the Planeswalker version, or are you on like that corn soup version of the deck?
Texas corn soup cEDH.
Yeah, I've been playing that version of it ever since. Now, going back to your original question, I had no input on the name of the channel whatsoever. I just think it's really funny. Like, I think I was watching Critical earlier today on their Keeping Tabs episode, and like this happens like almost every single time I watch them, but every single time they bring up a card and they're just like, the casting cost of this. I'm like, oh, they're talking about us. I'm like, oh, you said it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's funny. Just every single time I'm watching like either you or Max P or them or like some of these other channels, it's just like, oh, there we are. Not really, but
yeah. If I ever maybe for Wayne, we just throw up your channel like gigantic bold whenever we say the words casting costs, and we'll just do that. Like,
it'd be a running bit now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Anytime I've gotten to the point now to where like we've said it a couple times on the channel, and I think you'll probably see it on like some of the videos that we do. Yeah. But now anytime somebody mentions the word snack, I just immediately I get real close to the mic and go, shout out Zach Adler.
It's a lot of snacks and seeds. It's very common. It's actually, that's my channel name was just the first thing that came to my head when I was like, what would I call a YouTube channel? And Bite Size Magic just popped in. I was like, let's go with that one. Zero origin story. I'm like, snacks, bite size. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm kind of thinking this is going to be a really freeform discussion, like just being able to chat about a bunch of stuff right now. I think the big thing that Blake and I were chatting just a little bit about was the idea of a meta and like what it actually means. I've heard this, and I might have said this before, and I don't know if it's true, but I think the word meta comes from Smash Bros. And it's from Meta Knight, who was apparently like the best character at the time. And then meta just got adopted as being like, what's the best thing to be doing in a specific game or format? And so I'm just curious, like, what do you guys think when you hear the word meta? How does it sort of resonate for you? What does it mean to you?
That's a good question.
I always thought the word meta was like an acronym, and it stands for like most effective tactic available.
That definitely might be true. I've done no research to back up that.
No, you're good. That's all what
I could totally believe the Super Smash Bros. Claim on that one though, but
either one, That was basically it. Like we used to, it was the same way for, again, I relate a lot of this to Yu-Gi-Oh! Because that was like, I guess like my 60 card experience, like my competitive stuff until I got into CEDH. But yeah, like anytime I think of the meta, I think of like the density of like the decks that you're probably going to see. Like we've talked a lot about this, but like we'll use the term cEDH sometimes, and people will say like that's not necessarily a thing, but I almost use it as a way of just describing like the intent behind the game and like the game that you're actually playing and like the decks that you're probably seeing in that pod. And so I think meta is kind of the same way. It's the density of what certain decks you're going to see. Like if you're walking up to like even some of these like bigger events like Steel City and some of this other stuff, I don't think that those, or even like the Invitational, doesn't really represent like the meta. It's a bigger event. People are kind of there just having fun, jamming. Whereas like if you go to an event and people are trying to accrue points for like the top deck invitational or for these types of things, you're probably going to see a higher density of like these top decks. But yeah, meta, that's always what I had thought that it meant. It may not be that. I'd never had heard that. So that's actually kind of cool, the thing you just said.
Yeah, like I guess kind of going, and maybe even kind of going off of what he just mentioned there as far as like the invitational and like some of these big events. Like I know that you said it, it's not necessarily like this representation of the meta, but like to some extent that event was, as far as a few months ago, it was pretty much nothing but blue farm was the thing that was dominating, and now we've had this massive shift. And so whenever I do think of the term meta, it is this whole like what is kind of currently going on, what are those top strategies, what are the things that players want to be doing the most of right now in this space. And it's not just this one, just like very strict, rigid thing at all times. Like we are seeing right now, you know, how fluid it is and how ever changing, and it's just constantly evolving. And it, you know, there's different branches of it as well, is another kind of thing I'm thinking of as we're talking about this, where, you know, Blake mentioned that cEDH space, or like, you know, a lot of people kind of still view it. I think a lot of people view it as there is cEDH, but then we're also like the cEDH, cEDH is combined. But we have like this like national meta here in the US, and then you have the different metas across different countries. Local meta looks very differently. Like our local meta in particular, like it's very stacks heavy, very stacks and mid-rangey, like grindy games at times, which is very much not what the meta we have come to see in the format currently is. So yeah, just top strategies, just this ever-changing thing. It's living, I guess is kind of a way of putting it there too. So
I completely agree with you. I think viewing it as like a living organism or something like that's liquid is how I kind of look at it, because it's kind of just like our concept of, I would say, like what is the best thing to be doing right now. And usually that best thing or the most fun thing is something that's combating the strategy that was dominant in the previous meta, right? You know, because we, like you said, we went from the Invitational, which was heavy blue farm oriented, very grindy mid-range games, value centric. I would call like the last meta kind of like the Ristic Study meta, and it definitely evolved a bit. But last meta, we were all looking at cards like Copy Enchantment and Mirror Maid, you know, and Clever Impersonator as ways to clone Ristic Study, because it was the best thing to be doing at that point. And I think people as a whole, or groups of people, certain people started to respond to this and say, okay, like if this is really good, how do you beat this kind of archetype, you know, this grindy mid-range? And we come to the, like one of the natural conclusions, which is turbo. You know, if I can get underneath these value engines, then I get to go faster. They're not prepared for me. They're not mulliganing as responsibly as they should be. You know, they're looking 3 to 4 turns ahead instead of looking at the next turn and being like, oh, I can just win the game right now. I also, as a side note, really do like this comparison between cEDH and cEDH. I almost wonder if cEDH is actually bracket 4 and tEDH is bracket 5. You know, because I don't quite know all the distinctions, but I do know that for bracket 5, you're building the most competitive deck you can with an eye for the meta. And that's not to say that like a bracket 4 deck can't compete in bracket 5, but you tend to, I feel like, see people optimizing their decks to be the best that they can be in the current meta at bracket 5 or at tEDH levels, which is why Blue Farm has, you know, been so dominant throughout these different periods of time. It's never really fallen out of the top 3 because, in my opinion, it does well at all the metas. Like it is able to go fast, stop decks. It's able to grind really well in the mid range. It can fight stacks really well. And something Sylvie said in a recent episode we did was, she was like, you know, Tim Nadargo will be fine in a much more mid range meta. The deck will change, but overall it will be fine because it's going to be able to adapt and sort of compensate. So I think, you know, a couple months ago, we were seeing Blue Farm pilots be really high on these mid-range cards. And now we're seeing people, you know, like Logan or Jason or like, you know, the really good players try and optimize for a little more speed and turbo leaning focus their decks. Yeah. Which is, I just think super interesting for sure.
Absolutely. Like that was like some trends we were kind of noticing when we would do like the top 16 breakdowns. Like, before the Invitational, it was a lot of Ristic, clone Ristic, jam Ristic as fast as they can. And then we started noticing these things where, oh, people are jamming Rain of Filth in Blue Farm. And
Yeah.
maybe we're going a little bit heavier into necropotence than we were once before. Like you brought up like basically the idea of how versatile blue farm itself is, because like there's certain decks I always kind of think of as like these true mid-rangey decks, and I always kind of feel like that's more of a like deck construction than it is like a state of the game. And so like that is it's such a perfect example of how well that deck in particular can just like pivot regardless of where we are at, as far as if it needs to adjust to turbo, it can, keep somewhat greedier hands where we're trying to present a win by like turn 2, maybe not as fast as what Ral or what Rogsai is trying to do, but we are still seeing blue farm put up significant numbers in events.
Yeah. I think that it's super interesting too that you said that, because there was a video, this was a while back, but whenever the brackets first came out, we were talking about them just on the channel because everybody was talking about them. So we were like, well, let's jump on the bandwagon. But
Yeah.
I think Chase actually made the comment where he said that bracket 4 feels like cEDH and bracket 5 feels like TDH. So it's funny you said that, because I didn't even think about that until you just said that. But I almost feel
Me
like
and
that
Chase,
makes
great minds.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
And maybe to elaborate on that real quick, like I was thinking about this too as you were talking, Zach. Like, I kind of agree with you in that I think bracket 4 is kind of this representation of what cEDH, especially since they didn't really like clearly define things in the beginning. And like one of the main things that they did define with it was like it's a mindset in meta, and like there's a clear meta in the bracket 5. I kind of think that the difference between like a cEDH and TEDH, if you think about it, I don't know if I'm right or wrong when I say this, but almost this idea of like within both, there's probably this meta. Those people trying to lean more into the TEDH are trying to take it to that next step. It's like at the Invitational when you and others were trying to jam Mayhem Devil and like preparing for the overall meta. Being aware of what's going on in these shifts in deck styles and going, what do I need to do to tweak my own deck to either go a little bit faster, counter what's going on, things like that. And so I think that's what a lot of people are trying to do right now. And a lot of people have just apparently agreed that we're going to be in a turbo meta. Is very strong apparently right now. We've seen a ton of mono blue artifact decks popping up as well. So I mean, it's crazy, but I think that that's kind of a big distinction of like those that are trying to really think in that TEDH space are constantly just going, how do I stay above what everyone else is thinking?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I find kind of fascinating right now, and y'all may disagree or not, but like I kind of feel like it's not even necessarily that like is doing super great. I feel like each deck has kind of found, or like each color pie has kind of found their like poster child commander. Like we're starting to see that. And so like is like Ral, and you're seeing like obviously the blue farm color, like the Sans green is blue farm, like Tim Crom. You're seeing like the Sans red is like TNT, but even now people are trying, like they're testing Atraxa and doing stuff, but you're almost finding like the poster child for those colors, and people are just trying to find these like meta strategies. They still may cling to like a little bit of that, like, oh, this is a casual format, so I don't necessarily want to play like blue farm like the best thing, but they're still wanting to win. And the higher that the player skill level gets, the less you can get away with playing this like weird odd fringe deck and like sneak in wins, because now there's tons of content about cEDH. There's deck techs coming out all the time with these decks. You're not really going to show up to a big event against good players and have like Brewer's advantage. Like you're going to show up and like Max P was talking with Matt Hayes, and he mentioned that like you show up and you've got Arkham, and then he's basically instructing the whole table on how to kill Arkham, and like so I think that right now everybody's just kind of finding like it's less about the commander itself and more about like, here is my color, like the colors that I'm playing, who is the poster child for that like colors, and then people are just kind of building around that. But I don't know if y'all agree with that or not, but I feel like I've noticed more of that.
I think poster child is an interesting way to look at it, and I wonder if like with these decks that are popping up, like I don't know if I would call Ral like a meta deck, or if I would have called it that maybe a couple months ago. Certainly not, more than 5 months ago. It was basically just not played. It popped up here and there, but now you could probably call it a meta deck. And so there's a world where it kind of graduates in a way from being a bracket 4 deck to a bracket 5 deck, just because it's now in the meta. There's a high density of people playing it. It's, I think, like one of the most popular decks on EDH top 16. Like it's in the top 10. Same thing with Atali, like just popping up into what was a more casual deck where people were like, I just don't really believe in it, to going and winning the biggest tournament ever.
Right.
Just doing so well continuously, and kind of having this shift where it's like now viewed as something that is popular poster child deck, like you're saying, like something that is more common and more of a known quantity. I do actually think, as a side note, that it's interesting we're seeing these mono blue decks kind of pop up a bit. I know Holden Pryo, who's a really good buddy, has been playing what we call Octomom, but it's Lady Octopus, the mono blue one pick commander. People are looking at the new commander from Avatar, the Wan Shi Tong, the bird, and being like, this is like really interesting. And so we're kind of seeing some interesting off-meta choices start to incorporate themselves into more tournament gameplay. And I just think that's super cool, just to have some changes in what we consider to be playable. And also just going off of that, I feel like people that start off more casually are more likely to play the off meta decks, because casual, I don't even think there's a meta. Like you could say like, oh, the most popular, most played decks would be the meta, like the Dragon or like Edgar Markov, like these decks that have thousands and thousands of lists and tons of decks dedicated to them. But casual, there is no tournament setting. So there's nothing to be like, oh, this is the best deck in casual EDH. And I find that really, really cool too.
It's funny because whenever I was playing casual, we used to have this issue where, like, I would tell people all the time, like, I feel like the more casual the game gets, the better green is. And then, like, the higher up you would go in, like, power, green got worse, and people were playing, like, red and other, like, fast, like the black for tutors and the counters. And now green's doing fantastic in cEDH as well. But I think that if you look at the meta in casual, the farther down the bracket system you go, the more, like, I guess, homogenous, like, things turn into just, like, big green stompy wins. Because if you're winning any other way, it's not, and this isn't true for everybody, but, like, people think of, like, that's how I should win. Like, Crater Hoof, big, stompy, kick your teeth in. Like, that's the end of the game. You shouldn't be comboing and, like, searching up, and it's less efficient to try and combo, because you're not able to just, like, tutor up your win cons. Whereas, like, with us, almost everything is a combo. Like, decks that just deal commander damage and stuff like that have kind of fallen away. Like, I used to play Jessica Ishai. That deck sucks right now. I love it still, but it sucks. But it's funny you say, Winota, It's funny you say that, though, because Matt Hayes just sent me his Voja list. That is just, he just sent me that last night. I've been goldfishing. It's really dumb.
Hell yeah.
But totally off topic. But I was up way too late goldfishing that deck. But but I do think it's really funny you say that, because I got my start in Commander in casual. Chase, like, basically came in and was like he played a little bit of, I think, like the 60 card stuff, and then started playing Commander, and everybody that he was playing with was like just powering their decks up. And so it's funny because, like, I've always been known as like the person who just plays like a ton of fringe stuff, and then Kellen and me used to give Chase a hard time all the time because he would play nothing outside of the top 10, and so it was like polar opposites. Like, I would show up to play some cEDH, and I would be playing like Sithis and Zur and Jessica Ishai and playing like literally random stuff, and then Chase would pull out his bag and he'd have like Blue Farm, Rogsai, Kennen, Sisay, and like it was just so I do think it's really funny you say that, because it's very true, especially in our instance.
Well, but and kind of even going back to you talking shit about me there for a second and playing top decks. But
it's the truth.
Even with that being said, like, I feel like all of this still goes back to that idea of, like, the meta is ever changing. It's this living thing. It's fluid, because, like, decks that I would have played like a few months ago, now I'm looking at Timna Dargo. Like, it's placed several events this year with Sylvie and Kellen and others, and I'm looking at that. I'm looking at Core Vault lists for lands. I'm looking at, like, sometimes I've been playing Marnius here recently. I think that you brought up like some of those mono blue commanders. We've seen Rao, we've seen Vivi pop up in the Izzet stuff. we're just in a really good state, I feel like, in the meta where like anything truly can be competitive if it wants to be. But going even back to that bracket stuff, I think it's like the people that really think of like that next level, the TEDH space, that's what like truly pushes those decks into it, because they know what those strategies are trying to do. But even whenever like Blake was talking about the Max P thing was that Max P and Matt Hayes, where he's having to describe like what the Arkham stuff is doing, like most people aren't familiar with what those strategies are doing. Even Austin, like at the Fishbowl taking Gwynnm and talking earlier today about like that was literally just like a meta call that everyone's playing greedy and I'm going to play a deck that is going to punish greedy play. I think that is like an example of putting yourself in that TEDH mindset where it's just like, I know what everyone is trying to do. How do I go up against that? Or what's going to put me in the driver's seat in all these games when I know this is how the meta is?
Completely agree with you. Yeah, it's kind of like a predictive thing. It's like trading in the stock market. Like the best people are going to know where it's going, how the market's going to shift. They're going to buy in when it's low and sell when it's high. Like having that mindset with TEDH, I think, is what leads to success. Some people just get to cheat by playing Blue Farm because it's like, well, it's just always going to be, it's always going to be pretty good.
One of the things that I do find really fascinating about cEDH more than like any other card game that I've played, or like even whenever I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh, like I feel like this format specifically is very self-correcting. Like I know a lot of people have been talking about like, should they ban cards? Should they not ban cards? And not to go down that rabbit hole, I don't care. But like, I think it's just crazy how fast this meta can self-correct. Like if they see turbo becoming too much of a problem, people will shift into more control styles, and then you'll see like the control and the mid-range decks becoming very prominent. And then if people feel like Rhystic Study is getting like just annoying and like these grindy, sloggy games are like taking forever, people will slant towards turbo. And then if people see, again, like, oh, okay, well, like now I'm going to start throwing in stacks pieces into some of these lists. And now stacks is starting to even like become more prevalent. And like we were seeing some of the lists that just got kicked out of top 16 and Fishbowl were some pretty good stacks decks. And so I think that this format is very self-correcting. And that's something I've not noticed with like other formats. Like again, in Yu-Gi-Oh, I would always take anti-meta stuff all the time. I didn't like playing meta stuff, and it was hard. Like you would see a ton of people show up with anti-meta stuff, and when you walked up to those top tables, you were almost guaranteed to see all of the people, like the top 10, were going to be playing one of two strategies, like one of the two best decks. And then you may have one person that snuck in there with like an anti-mana strategy because his like games were just like lined up perfect for the day. But in this format, we will cover stuff all of the time from like these top 16s, and we'll like see a list and we'll be like, Miss Bumbleflower, how the hell did that?
Where the fuck did this come from? Yeah, I think cEDH, I don't know how much this is true because I haven't played a lot of other formats, but I feel like it really, really rewards pilot skill. And that's why you can see people like Ian taking any deck he wants to a tournament and winning. And I also think that's why he's one of the biggest, YouTube creators, is because he's attracting all these people from casual EDH into it without saying, oh, I won another tournament on Blue Farm. Like, who cares? No one cares. But he's able to say, here's this deck that you've played in casual that I played in a tournament setting and I did really well with. And this is a bit of a tangent, but I'm just curious, do you think casual players would enjoy tournaments? And it's something I've been thinking about a lot. But would these people that play casually want to go and play against other people playing their power level deck and play in a tournament?
I think that playing in a tournament, if it was actually like similar power level, then probably. But we actually at our local shop have tournaments where they put like price on like the deck that you can play, and people will still show up with like $200 Magda and like some of this other stuff and just get cooked, thinking that they're just going to have like a fun day at a tournament, and then they just get cooked and they like literally will just drop and leave. So I think if they could if it was truly like similar power level, I think they would probably enjoy it. But I don't know, man, it's weird. Like we joked too in our last video that like a lot of the problems that people have in casual are the ways that people win. A lot of the problems we have in cEDH is the fact that like people aren't winning. Like they're like, I'm tired of these draws. Like, so it's like polar opposites. But go ahead, Chase. I'm sorry, man.
No, I think it is a good question. I think a lot of casual players at times are very hesitant of it because they just aren't fully aware of what to expect. And I mean, Blake and I both, and I'm sure that you have seen this like early on in your cEDH career where like you go to an event and someone's like there with a pre-con, play with their casual deck. And you kind of sit there and it's just like, oh, this feels bad. Like this just feels bad.
Just pub stomping one person at the table. Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like it truly comes down to like, what is their goal? Like, what is it that they have in mind? Did they just show up because everyone else was doing this and they had nothing else to do on a Saturday and they just wanted to jam games? Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Or if they just wanted to see where they're at as far as skill wise, like, I think that mindset really separates those that genuinely just want to have fun and play casually versus those that like actually really want to get better at the game too. So as far as like wanting to do tournaments, I think we all kind of have this tendency, not just in the game, but I think just in life where we just want to get better at whatever it is we set our mind to. And so when you get into Commander, I think that there's just this natural power creep and that you just get drawn into the things that our cEDH, TEDH space can provide and being able to go to the tournaments and whatnot. Like I even know for myself, like I was super hesitant to go to my first tournament that I went to because I just didn't feel confident in myself. And I think that is something that a lot of casual players struggle with. But I think that if they took the opportunity to just try it out for themselves, that they would actually enjoy it probably a lot more and get a lot more growth and experience out of it than they are right now, just kind of sitting at the same play group with the same rule zero conversations. And sometimes people just getting butt hurt. That's been our experience with it.
Zach, and I don't mean to interrupt you either, brother, because I know this is your show, but I have a question for you actually, because I'm very
go for it.
Because like I had mentioned this to Chase one time, and I would love like your input on this, but I had this idea at one point to like essentially like when you see tournament breakdowns, you constantly see the people that are like topping these events and like we're covering their lists, and a lot of times they're in the comment section saying like thank you so much for like covering the list, or like they're all of a sudden they're on podcasts and people are talking about like, oh yeah, like I did really good with this deck and here's how. I'm curious to like, I think it'd be really neat if somebody like did almost like a series where they look at an event and they reach out to some of the people that like did the worst in the event and like literally ask them like, what was your experience like? What did you think going into this it was going to be like asking those questions, and then almost like, I don't even know, like you're trying to like, I guess, coach them, but like you're just trying to like help them and like prepare them more for like what it would be. But I would think it would be so awesome to do something like that. Me and Chase mentioned something about that, but I would love like your perspective on that. Like what would, if you were talking to somebody, I guess like somebody that just like completely scrubbed out of an event, like it was their first one, like how would you go about navigating, like talking to them, asking those questions, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's also a really interesting idea because even at that level where you're like, oh, I did poorly, like we've all been there. You know, the best players in the world have all gone to a tournament and scrubbed out, especially when they're just starting out. Maybe Freedom Waffle hasn't. Maybe he's always just been that good. Who knows? I think I've done that in a personal setting. I do that, like I'll play games with people where it's like, oh, it's my first tournament ever. And like, you definitely get the vibe that they're not, aware of what's going on so much. And it is interesting to like work with them politically because they're either just not going to listen to you at all because they're like not aware that they either should participate in politics or that they're intentionally not participating. Because, people have different political styles, but I really like talking to those people, like hearing people say like, this is my first tournament and like, I have no idea what's going on and I have no idea how to get better. Like starting at that place where you're at the bottom of the mountain looking up is super hard to put yourself in the place of when, you've played this game for so long. And I haven't even played like crazy long, but it just feels like whenever I talk to new people, I've had some clients. I have a client actually who has never played a game of cEDH before. And they were like, I just really wanted to like learn some stuff before I go sit down at a table and like make a fool of myself. And so I had to do a lot of thinking and be like, okay, if I knew nothing about this, how would I get into the format and like start to understand what's going on, understand the rules, understand the meta, understand all the cEDH specific terminology, because there's so many words that we use that make no sense to normal people. So I think if I were to do that, it would best be served in a situation where I could play with those people locally, hear their perspective in person and say, are you interested in talking about this? Where I think this could be really, really fascinating is working with people that have played casual Commander and have just gone to their first tournament, And I do find it really interesting to kind of bridge this gap a little bit more. And I don't know quite what that looks like yet, but just getting someone's perspective who's a little bit enfranchised, like they understand the game, they've played a decent amount of decks, but they've never experienced a competitive setting. That's where I think you could have like a really interesting conversation, where they're talking about, I really only play at my local game store with like 10 people. I haven't played EDH outside of that. And then I get into this setting and everyone's talking and making deals and like winning on turn 2. And it's just, I imagine, pretty overwhelming for someone like that. But I think it's a great idea. And it would be really cool to do that game. Hopefully I could do it in a way, if I did end up going that route, where it wouldn't be like, this person scrubbed out of an event. Like, let's hear why they're so terrible.
He said, you suck. Why is that?
Yeah.
And the video's just with me, and he's talking to me the whole time.
What went so wrong?
Everything.
What? I think that I do think it's kind of fascinating because, like, I remember going to my very first event and, like, doing awful, man. I felt so confident going to that event because playing locally, I felt like I felt like I was decent. I would win more games than I would lose. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I feel like a good player. I'm a strong player. Yeah. Go to this event, dude, I get just whooped. It was like 0-5-0, like super defeated, like asking Chase, what do I do? Like, I don't know what I'm going to do after this. And he's like, just play Blue Farm. And I was like, no, that can't be the answer. It can't be. No.
It's not.
And then I drew and then I drew the line in the sand. I was on Zur at that point because that, like I said, favorite deck. That was the deck that got me into Commander to begin with. But after that, I was like, I'm going to just like dedicate my time to like really learning this deck. And I think that helped me a ton, like being almost like a specialist. Now, whenever I pick up decks and I'm playing against good players, and even if I'm playing a good deck, I sit there with tons of cards in my hand and I go, I don't know lines in Grixis.
Not to minimize what you said, Chase, like playing Blue Farm is not a bad idea, but oftentimes people can become more defeated after they scrub out on their pet deck, go to Blue Farm, and scrub out again. And they're like, I'm playing the best deck in the format. How am I still losing? And it's because so much of it comes down to pilot skill, pilot knowledge, and being able to operate with so many moving parts. Like, that's just why I'm so blown away that cEDH is like able to function almost. Because it's like, I don't know if I came into this format knowing nothing, except for maybe having some casual experience, how I would even get into it. And I think a lot of content is kind of missing the gap or missing the mark there, where it's like a new player is seeing a breakdown on what the best decks are, probably goes and picks them up and then has no idea what to do with them, which is unfortunate. But it's like just conceptualizing like how to see this from a new person's eyes and from their perspective is something I've been thinking a ton about recently, and like how to actually do that in a way that makes sense to them and talk about this game in a way that makes sense. Yeah. To kind of wrap up this meta conversation, I know we kind of went in a couple different directions, but I think most people have the idea that we're in a turbo meta. And whether that's true or not, I don't totally know. I do know that from firsthand experience playing at Fishbowl, that was a turbo meta. A lot of people were playing fast decks. A lot of people were winning or losing on turns 2 and turns 3. The winner and the top 4 were 3 turbo decks and Freedom Waffle, which is a completely ridiculous, like he's just going to be in the top 4 of everything. But 3 turbo decks doing so well is something that I would point to as an indicator of where the meta is, at least in the West Coast area. I think the Boil too was, kind of the East Coast contingent of this because they happened relatively close to each other and they're on, different parts of the country. But we saw a ton of turbo in that as well. Even the winner Dallas's list was a more turbo slanted Blue Farm. So with this concept of a turbo meta, I've heard some people talk about this, and I have no idea how true it is, but I almost feel like there's like this undercurrent where people have an idea of like, okay, if we're all in agreement that turbo is the best thing to do right now, you either get to join them or you try and combat them. Like you try and find the rock to their scissors, right? And yeah, I just want to throw that out to you guys and say, like, how true do you think that is? Do we see shifts coming up, and what are those shifts really going to look like?
I almost think this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but like I think that dependent on the size of the event, it determines like the meta call, like what you should play. Because I found that like if you're in a small event, like it's an event that's like, we're just say like, I say small, it's still a big event, but like 80 players, like you're in an 80 player event, you realistically could get maybe a win or two and then have a couple draws, and it's very likely you're going to lock for top 16. I think in these big events, because we cut to top 16, you look at players that objectively they're playing mid range. They objectively like probably have a better record. Like it's 2 wins, like 1 loss, and then they had like 4 draws or something crazy, and they lost out to the guy that had 3 wins and like 4 losses because that deck just literally like it's not it like. I feel like there's more to gain in those instances from just saying I'm going to jam and I will at least make an effort to win the game. Whereas some of these decks that are playing mid range in those big events, they never actually like get their opportunity to like try to go through the window. It like the game gets to a state, the window closes, and then they're just like, okay, I'm playing for a draw. And then it happens again, and then it happens again, and it happens again. And then you still walk away with like a lot of points. Like in a regular event, you would probably be like one of the top like 6 people on that board at that moment. But because these events are just so big, the payoff of having 3 wins and then like just making it like that. We even saw that with a couple of people's records when we were covering the event. Like you would see somebody that made whatever placement and their record would be like 3-1-3 or 3-1-3. And then like a person right below them would be like 2 wins, like no losses, 4 or 5 draws, like something crazy. And they literally they ended up lower. They didn't have any losses really, like, which is something to hang your hat on, but they lost out to the guy that just got that like extra point or extra 2 points for just jamming. And sometimes you get there, sometimes you don't.
As far as like the idea of like if there is like any kind of rock paper scissors things, I don't know if that truly even exists right now, because like people might be trying to jam some stacks pieces. Like I know even with, to say right now, I'm currently looking at a couple of stack C pieces, but not tailoring the whole deck to it. I just kind of feel like that archetype and then to some extent control are just like non-existent right now. You can have pieces of it. You obviously have to have interaction. Sorry, Blake, I know you love Zur, but like, okay. but you're an example of why there's so many draws in the games that you play. No, but I think that I don't know if it's so much that there is like there's a hard counter to this deck. There's a hard counter to this deck. I think if anything, like everyone's just playing greedy right now. Like we can even say, like we could say there's a turbo meta, but I think it's just a lot of greed. It's either people are jamming the win by turn 1 or turn 2, and they're getting there because the blue farm player and maybe the Kennen player and a Sisei pilot like me kept value engines and no other interaction because they're also playing greedy, and just the faster deck got there. And so I think when that happens, there's no true like system of checks and balances, if that makes sense. And I could be wrong in that, but I just think that that's what we're seeing right now. There's nothing truly that will keep some of these decks in line, and other than people just trying to respect the deck that's at the table and play appropriately.
2 things to say. The first is I think the best checks and balances we have is losing. We do not like losing. It's something that is going to stick with us. It's why people have such like a disdain for decks like Rogsai or Kennen. They're like, I don't want to lose to this deck again. And I think that informs how people brew their decks and makes them want to include more interaction or lean into stacks pieces. And I think that's, in my mind, like the biggest lever in what makes a meta shift, is that if a deck is winning a lot, that means that it's beating a lot of people. And all those people that it's beating are sick of losing to that specific style. And so I think that's why we see it self-adjust so well, is because it's made up of a bunch of humans putting together Magic decks and trying to figure out how to stop
the scenario that happened to them in an event or in a series of weeks playing, like in a league or something.
Yeah.
The second part of this is I agree to a extent that playing something that's turbo is going to be easier to make top cuts with in these big events because you are just putting wins on the stack and you're force checking people every single game. And most of the time, decks aren't going to have it because most of the time, it's not some of the best players in the world playing against those decks, recognizing what they can do, understanding how fast they can go, and being a little more responsible with what they're keeping. But I know I keep talking about Freedom Waffle, but like we see him on a mid-range deck. Like Kennen is quite a true mid-range deck. It's able to go fast. Like you can always land a quick Basalt or explode with mana into, Hullbreaker Horror or something like that. But it at its core is a mid-range deck. And every person that I know who's lost to him, a lot of the people are like, yeah, he had like 5 Ristic Studies. Like he is in this mid-range plan and doing super duper well because he's understanding his windows. He knows when to take draws and when not to take draws. And he's capitalizing on the wins after he stops what I assume are the more fast, proactive decks. It doesn't always work, i.e. the finals, a fishbowl. Sometimes you don't have it and you're not able to stop a person, especially when you're the only blue player in a pod. Like I'm sure we've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a fun experience, but I do believe that something we might be seeing is this turbo mindset, in my opinion, is a result of mid-range doing so well and also all the draws that were happening. Because the invitational meta had a ton of draws in it. And partially that's because most of the decks playing there were mid-range decks. But I think the other part of that is we're still learning how to navigate stuff like draws and have that unique game mechanic be a part of what we're doing. And something I think people are going to start to do is they're going to say, no, I'm not taking draws. Like I'm not, in a position where I'm going to do that. You can use your counterspell if you want to, but I'm going to jam right now. And so this whole look at my force of will, don't do it. Or here's a silence. Like Atali is just not going to be like, oh no, like they're going to be like, do it. Because it's going to be their next turn when I want to do my thing. So I may as well get it out of your hand. And I think that there might be a kind of mindset shift that's going to occur around the idea of draws, and something I'm working on a lot right now too, which is like I've been in scenarios in games this year where it's like I've had 3 people or 2 people, trying to push draws on me. And even if I'm a little unsure if I'm going to get the win or if I'm going to throw to someone else, I'm trying to put myself in experiences and situations where I'm not taking the draw there. I'm going to try and push through. And I would say most of the time it actually has worked for me and it's been a net positive. And so I do have a feeling that once this sort of mindset shift occurs and once people start understanding that they can capitalize on wins if they're not on turbo decks, because I think a lot of people are trying turbo decks right now and they're coming to a conclusion. I think partially like you're playing Rogsite right now, Blake, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What would you say is your general experience on the deck?
I'm not going to lie. It's the deck when it's doing the thing is so strong. But most of the time, like my whole experience, so I've played I think like 9 games on the deck so far, or like 10 games, something like that. And I have 2 wins and like 8 losses. Both of my wins on the deck have been turn 1, seat 2 wins, and every other experience has been just the most atrocious mid-range game plan ever, or just find like a no land hand on a multitude and just cry and be like, oh, I just really hope I find a play. And like it sucks, but like it's so like up and down, like very high peaks, very low valleys. And I think that's why I like, I guess, like the more mid-range plans, because they're, I feel like, more consistent. The person, in my opinion, who is going to win the game is the person who like ultimately is probably seeing the most cards. I think that Turbo just tries to see the cards a lot faster. I have found that like I do better when I just like set back and like I just slowly see a couple cards at a time. But I personally do not like the deck. Even winning on turn 1, like that's awesome. I just don't like the deck, but I'm playing it because I feel like I have to make myself do it because I don't play Grixis ever, and also like I need to be a little more aggressive even whenever I'm playing Esper, because I was ending up with so many draws, and just there was games where I literally had a game in an event recently where I had 2 Ristic Studies, a Fish, and a Fairy Mastermind on board, and I looked over at the table and there was somebody that had Ristic, Fairy Mastermind, like Archivist, and then they had a Valley Flood Caller, and there was another player that had like Ristic and a Fairy Mastermind. And I was like, I think I get here if I just like push right now. But then they were like, no, you won't get there. And I just ended up being like, whatever, I'll take the draw. And I was like, this is so stupid. Like, why did I not just jam right? And I thought about that game like the whole rest of the day. And I was like, why did I not just jam? Yep. And I ended up walking away from that event with like 4 draws and like a loss. And I was just like so mad. I was like, I need to quit being so timid. So I just literally put my deck down for a bit. And I was like, I'm going to pick up stuff that forces me to just go. And it may not even teach me to find windows right now. It's just teaching me to be less timid. Like, just go. And so I'm trying to like break that mindset of just like, oh, I need to set back. It's like, I'll just straight up ask people, was like, is there any reason I shouldn't cast this? And if they don't have a reason, I'm like, cool, it's being cast.
Yeah. So I think that is illustrative of the fact that Turbo, and like I talked about when we talked in our last episode, a lot of Turbo is playing the deck, not really playing cEDH.
Yeah.
You know, RAL is a great example of that. You're pretty much just solitaring, you know, in a corner by yourself. And if you get stopped, then you just watch people play the game. And I'm not here to say like that's better or worse, or that's not fun or more fun. But for me personally, after playing mid-range and playing Turbo and playing stacks, I have much more fun playing stacks and mid-range because I get to be a participant in the full game. And who knows if that sentiment is shared among more people, but I do believe that going from the mid-range game where there's a ton of draws, people are having the same idea that you are, where they're like, well, I have to be more proactive. You know, I have to, you know, maybe they like play a deck that's going to teach me to jam. I think they're going to come to that conclusion where it's like, oh, even when I am winning, it's not like that fun. Like I'm just here playing with myself basically. And I think what happens is you have the mindset shift, like you said, of saying, okay, played mid-range, drew a lot, tried Turbo, didn't win that many games even when I wasn't having that much fun. Now I'm going to go find a deck that is going to let me play the game of cEDH and change the mindset I have around it so that I'm not just taking draws left and right. I'm able to leverage my position in a way and not be afraid and have 3 people say, I don't know if you should go for it right now, and be like, fuck it, I'm jamming, you know, like I feel good. And find success in that kind of vein. So that's just my 2 cents on where I kind of think things are going, but I could be totally wrong. Maybe we see more Turbo. Maybe we see stacks come back. I kind of want to play some stacks right now. That's where I'm at.
This is the thing for me. I think, and this is totally off topic too, but it's still related to like the Turbo idea. Like it's related, but it's not just necessarily like Turbo, mid-range, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I honestly feel like right now, Rogsai is like, it's interesting because people know the interaction point. They understand the deck is going to go fast. And like, I feel like they know what the deck does. And I've still walked into a ton of games where people do not prepare to see the Rogsai. Like, I will literally win on turn 1, and then the next game, no one has kept interaction again. And I'm like, you're lucky that this turn I'm just casting a fish and like we're gonna play slow, but like I could have went for it again, like you did, and I'll literally ask, and like nobody is treating it like they're not being responsible, and then it's I don't know, it's just crazy to me. Like I do think that it's wild. Like we expect everybody else to handle the threat. I think that's one of the reasons why I love Xur so much. Anyways, like I honestly play like way too much interaction in that deck. I like in my opinion, I probably run like 20 pieces of interaction in the deck. Like it's stupid. Like my instant count is like 29 instants. Like it's really dumb. But I love that deck because it gives me the most agency in the game. Like I get the say on whether or not this game is going to end right now or not. Even if I lose in the mid range, I at least got to see more cards and do stuff. I don't want to lose immediately after, like I don't want to be sitting there like I've literally watched my opponents. They're like, there's 2 players that literally do not get turns now. They just shuffle up. They just went through the effort to set down, mulligan, they're ready, they've thought through their game plan, they're good to go, and then they literally go, oh, I lose, and then they scoop it up. And I'm like, that sucks. And then for me, it's like I watch a Rogsai do that, and then I'm like, and they're like, Nas, and I'm like, cool, force of will. Okay, cool, my turn. Like, fish, like, let's go.
Watching us the rest of the game.
Yeah. And so it's, I don't know, I just like I feel like people think that Turbo gives you a lot of agency, and I guess it does in a way, but I like control simply for the fact that, like, it gives me a lot of say in the game. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to win all of the games. I just get a say in how that game will go. Even if my spell gets countered, I made the attempt or I made an effort. Whereas like a lot of people are being super greedy and like it seems good, but it's just, I don't think it's the right move. I don't know how to explain it. Like you don't really have agency, even though you're trying to land this early wrist stick. Like you literally have given yourself like no control over the game. You're just hoping and praying. That was my rant. My TED Talk. My Zer Talk. No,
Yeah. So Chase, with Sisay, I'm kind of curious, do you feel like you have agency to be a participant in the mid-range game, or are you adding stacks pieces to be proactive against these turbo decks? Like what is the, and also like what stacks pieces? Are you looking at like Draneth Magistrate? Are you looking at Spider Woman? Are you looking at Deafening Silence? Like what's kind of your thought process on it?
I think, yeah, take a break. Take a break. He's talked a lot.
no.
So as far as I guess where my mindset is currently, like you brought up how Kennen, especially Freedom Waffles list, is like a true mid-range deck. You know, I think I said this kind of the same thing with Blue Farm. Just it has more flexibility, has that way of pivoting. I kind of view Sisay kind of within that same category. Like it's not necessarily trying to go for like a bunch of value engines right out of the gate. It's trying to let's get to Wooburg. let's counter mana and put activations on the stack. That is if you like just build heavily into the Sisay synergies. And because I do lean more towards that style, which is like either I'm currently on the pod version of it. I've played the Tutor Chain. Like I've played Claim Chowder. Just I feel like if I'm going to play a 5-color commander and do Blue Farm-esque things, there's other options. Sisay still... Farm. Yeah, just play Blue Farm. Like that's if you're gonna do it, just play the best deck that can do it. But I kind of use Sisay as one of these decks that are kind of a true mid-range deck. Like it can win early, but it's usually not until like turn I'm gonna say maybe 4 to 5 that it will consistently put up those numbers. So the pieces that I am looking at Deafening Silence. I am looking at Draneth right now. I've kind of slotted it back in, and I'm going back to Lavinia. I really like Lavinia at times, even though it is a piece that like I have to be very careful on the timing, whether I'm tutoring it out or casting it, because it's kind of like tutoring out a Teferi Time Reveler too quickly. Like if you do it too quickly, you could potentially hand someone else the win. If you can't go off on your turn and you have no way of removing it. So I kind of view Lavinia the same way. I think Spider Woman's a great card as well. I know most Sisay pilots are probably on it, but I do feel like it's one of those decks that, okay, now that I have my mana down, I do have a little bit more agency. I am able to kind of politic a little bit more. Like I don't have to sit back on my value engines. My answers are in the deck, and being able to get them out directly onto the battlefield or anything like that through Sisay activations. Like, yeah, Sisay is scary. Like people kind of have, I made a deck tech recently over my thoughts on Sisay in general and the way I approach my version of it. It is one of those decks you kind of have to have pregame conversations about, where, you know, just like Rogsai and Ral and everything else, if people don't have those conversations, the pilot can kind of run away with the deck, because most people don't know what Sisay is even trying to do. I would say that I don't even know what I'm trying to do with the deck. So I think that what I'm trying to do, I feel like I have agency, but I kind of have to slow the table down enough for me to be able to like voice what I need to say at a given moment. It goes back to those points that Blake was saying of like, you know, you can kind of hope and expect people to keep the interaction or threat assess appropriately or things like that, but that's just not what's happening right now. And I think that trying to not go into a stacks build, but also trying to incorporate these pieces to advance my own game state and game plan and try to actually push me a little bit further into the mid-range. That's what I'm trying to do right now with mine. Keep it slow. Hey, let me get my mana. Okay, now we're winning. Now we're jamming now that we have it. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for Fishbowl, I took what people have said is like a slower build of Blue Farm, and I actually really enjoyed how it played. I am not a huge proponent of greed. I don't find that I enjoy those games as much because, you know, it's like I said, you exchange
being a participant and playing the game for being able to win very quickly. And I think some people don't want to be sort of the police at the table. You know, some people, I'm sure like Blake, do want to be the police and they enjoy being the police. But I think that the kind of, like I had a game in day 2. Like I had a terrible day when I had like 8 points. In day 2, I was like, if I want to top 16, I have to win both these games. And I go into my first game and I'm playing against Kinnan player who made the invitational. Their name's Z. Really, really good Kinnan player. And I'm playing against a Rogthras player, and I'm playing against a Blue Farm player. All of these players, like, there's just conversations at the table that makes me understand that they're all good players. Like, there was, they're like, oh, like, I've seen their names on EDH Top 16 winning tournaments. Like, I know these are good players. And I think I kept like a first or a second 7, and it was like a very conservative first or second 7. It was, like an Esper Sentinel, had like a Red Blast. I had a little bit of stable mana, and I was like, this is going to be a mid-range game. I am not losing this game on the early turns because this is such a high stakes game. And, there's a world where I could have mulliganed more aggressively and said like, fuck it, I'm just going to go. But the read I got was that everyone at the table was going to be playing a more mid-range style game. And I even showed one of the Blue Farm players my hand, and he was like, why would you keep this on like a second 7? Like, this is just like so mid. And the hand just basically led me to being able to develop into a board state where I was drawing cards. I established my draw engines. Mayhem Devil, again, put in so much work this tournament. I just think that card is insanely good and really underplayed still. But having that access to that won me that game. In my top 16 game, it was controlling the board the whole game. And so anyway, all of this is to say, I have found my style of play is to be sitting in that mid-range pocket, being able to utilize politics, being able to utilize logic-based reasoning, being able to fight counter wars, to have draw engine in play. And I think a lot of people say like there's this interesting concept where they're like, I really want to find like the perfect deck. Like people think there's like this unicorn deck that's just going to be like the only deck they're ever going to need to play again. It's like the concept of being hungry and being able to eat one meal and never being hungry ever again. Like it's just never going to happen. And that's from Alex Hormozy. I don't know if you, yeah. And the more I play, the more I'm realizing like it's actually really not about the deck. It's about understanding who you are as a player. And it doesn't mean that I'm not playing Turbo, I'm not playing Stacks, but I know that I play the best when I get to play mid-range games. And I think players who are looking for their unicorn deck are really just looking for how to understand themselves as cEDH players and understand what kinds of decks and what kind of strategies and play patterns feel the best when they're playing. And it seems like you guys have some awareness of this in yourselves in terms of the decks you play and like how you're playing them. That being said, it's also cool to try these new decks and new strategies and be able to adapt how you play your current deck based on trying something else, which I'm a really big fan of. I like playing different kinds of decks and different strategies and bringing those plans back into a main deck. So anyway, just a little tangent on that and why I do think it's actually fun to play responsibly. Like I find those games where there's less greed involved on my end personally, I have better games, and then there's totally games where it's just like, oh, I kept a turn 2 Nas or a turn 2 Necro and I won, which is just the power of Blue Farm.
Even though you said it was like a tangent, like it's a very important discussion because even though you said it was like more of a tangent you were going on with some of those things, I think it is an important discussion to be able to have. And it's a point that I always try to reiterate on our channel of like, you have to have confidence in yourself in this format. Like, and really the only way you can continue gaining that confidence is through gaining the experience and going and playing cEDH and just, not beating yourself up and just taking what you can and learning from it. Because, you can, it's kind of like whenever we were talking earlier of like how Blake had that one event and I told him, just go play Blue Farm. It doesn't matter if you go and play Blue Farm if you're not going to feel confident on that. So gaining that for yourself and just learning how to really identify what you feel most comfortable with is like really one of the most important things you can do in trying to get better and learn. So
what's crazy for me too is I think that everybody, I guess, like they have that stage or like that phase where they want to shortcut stuff. Like I thought that when I was super new to like tournaments and stuff like that, I was thinking like, oh, I'll get this coaching session from comedian, and that's going to be my level up moment, and I'm going to like, my head's going to explode because I'm going to have so much knowledge and I'm going to win every event. That did not happen. Like Ian gave me a lot of really good advice. Like I was like, holy shit, this is really good. But even now I think about some of the stuff that he kind of taught me in that conversation. And I think that I probably would have come to those, some of those conclusions, maybe not all of it, but a lot of those conclusions on my own if I just kept playing the game. So I really do think that like people, if they want to get better at the format, they should play a lot of cEDH. Like it's like the Nike slogan, like just do it. Like play a lot of cEDH. And then once you have a better understanding of the format and you have a better idea of like what the decks are trying to do and what your deck is trying to do, what like how to go about like mulligans and all these other things that are important in the format, then I think it's really good to like start getting into the coaching and stuff like that. Because I started like talking to other people and like doing sessions, and it was so much easier to understand what they were talking about because I actually knew a lot of the lingo, like you were saying. I knew a lot more about I knew more about what questions I wanted to ask. Like I would ask like very broad, generic, like, how do I get better at cEDH? I want to get better. And then after that, I was like, hey, I'm noticing that I'm losing to this maybe archetype more like as this type of a deck. I know that I'm not going to, or maybe like as an Esper player, I noticed that my choke point a lot of times is mana. I'm able to draw lots of cards. Like, what would you recommend me do in this situation? Like, how would you recommend me go about a stack war? Because like, obviously I only run a certain amount of like free interaction eventually, blah, 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 like all this stuff. Like I would be able to ask better questions. And so I think that ultimately just playing the game is like the best teacher. And it doesn't always have to be high level play, even just like a casual game occasionally. Like you may discover some weird like niche line that you never knew was there because the game was longer, you had more mana, like you had more cards in your hand, and you're like, oh, if I have these cards I can do this. And then all of a sudden now you're looking for that when you're mulliganing or you're but yeah. So I think that's like super interesting. Like but I don't know. I don't know how I got off onto that tangent. Sorry.
I mean,
something that Chase said.
Something that Chase said. I think that coming into like coaching sessions or like coming into coaching with your own plan instead of hoping that by doing coaching it will just become easy is definitely, in my opinion, the better way to go about it. You don't need to come with like everything, but like if you're aware of some of your shortcomings, like I like to start coaching sessions with getting to know someone first so I can understand like where they are. And one of the things I ask is like, where do you feel like you need to grow the most in the game? Is it in your politics? Is it in your threat assessment? Is it in your mulligans? Is it in your technical play and your sequencing? And there's a whole laundry list of items that comprise, I think, being a good player. And a lot of those are not really thought about in detail. And, the real thing is a lot of cEDH content is so new that no one's even talking about all these different things. And so that's the nice thing about having a little bit more content is there's more people with ideas who are talking about stuff and saying like, what is a window? What does that even fucking mean? Or how do I actually interact on the stack? Like, these things. And that's why I've really enjoyed those conversations I've had with like Max P. And also why I think people have really resonated with those kinds of episodes is because it's people talking about theory a little bit more than just a deck, where it's not just saying like, oh, like what deck's doing well right now. It's like, no, how do you as a player grow? And how do you change how you think about the game? I'm curious on that note. Have you guys experienced, like, have you had those sort of level up moments? Have there been times in your time playing when you've been like, oh, something clicked for me, and it clicked because I was in this situation playing this game and then it just made sense?
Go ahead, Chase. I'm talking too much.
Okay, so Blake makes fun of me all the time because I have a tendency to just be really hard on myself and just kind of like downplay a lot of what I do. So as far as like a legitimate like level up moment, I think I've had some okay performances. I've continued like this year, and I've continued to, I think, make slight improvements at each event that I've been going to and trying to really push myself and things like that. As far as like a genuine level up moment though, I don't know just yet. And if I have, I haven't taken the time to like fully recognize it for myself.
I honestly think that one of my biggest level up moments that I had was learning, like, I don't remember who it was that I heard say it, and I wish I could remember, but they were mentioning something like related to like the 60 card principle of like, because I'm a control deck, so I know that like if I use a piece of interaction on somebody, that puts that person down a card, me down a card, and it helps the other people. Like they technically go up two. And so this idea of not always being the first person to, I guess, like interact and to do stuff. I used to treat everybody at the table as almost like these are my opponents and I'm here to beat them. And eventually I had this like moment where I started realizing like I don't want to be adversarial with people at the table. I want to literally be everybody's friend until I'm winning the game or someone else is winning the game. And then at that point we are still friends and that's the bad guy. Or I'm winning the game and let's still be friends. Like don't stop my win. But like, you know, it's like I think that kind of like snowballed into like learning that immediately made me go like, okay, I need to politic more. And then I started like learning how to politic more. And then like you see just little stuff that people do, like rather than just being like, I'm casting the spell right now, asking things like, would you like, why shouldn't I cast this? Or can you give me a reason? Yeah. Like I remember I was in an event and somebody did that and they were like, show me 2 pieces of interaction or I'm just jamming this right now. And people just immediately started showing their hands. And I was like, I'm going to try that. And then
that's a lot of information.
Yeah. And I immediately stopped having to just like be the person interacting all the time. A lot of times I can see somebody looking like they're getting ready to go for it. And I can be like, listen, like you can, but I don't think you get there. And I think this person gets there. And I'm way more open to being like, here's like, I'm not bluffing you. Like, here you go. And then they're like, okay, like I really don't get there. And some people will just, I've literally had people that still will do it. Like they're like, no, I don't care. I'm just going to jam. And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, I'll counter it. Like, please don't let me counter their stuff. Don't make me counter your stuff. And they're like, but I just want to go for it. And I again, like they have agency, they can do what they want, but I'm countering your shit. So fuck it. I'll throw to the next player. No.
I think it's really funny that he opened that up with like, I don't remember who exactly said this whole thing about like just the idea of trading resources. And I think it literally happened when we recorded with you. I think you were the one that told us.
No, I knew that forever ago, like a long time ago.
I'll take it.
Long time ago. But I mean, even talking to you, like I do feel like that I learned a lot. Like I just like talking to the high level players in the space because I feel like they approach the game from they see the game the way that I wish I could see the game. Like I feel like I have a lot of ideas in my head. Like I'm so ADHD, like it's stupid. Like I should be on Adderall. I was prescribed it. I was like, hell no, I'm not taking it. I just like my chaos. Like it is what it is. Or I want to look at the game from this like unique angle. And every time I talk to like a high level player, I feel like they're just peeling more of the curtain back for me to see. And so like talking to you, like talking to Matt, talking to Logan, talking to Eric, talking to these people in the space that are really good players, and then getting to Ty Ohio, then all of a sudden I get to come back to the game and I go, holy crap, this is a whole nother perspective, or like a whole nother layer of the game that I was missing because like it was just covered up and I needed somebody to peel it for me. Like I may have eventually peeled it for myself, but we now have all this content out there that's readily available. We have access to like Discord and being able to chat with each other. And we are also like lucky enough as content creators, like we don't have tons of top tournament results like a lot of other people do, but because we make content, we have the luxury of being able to say, hey, like this person, we've covered your list. Like, would you want to talk about it? And then so it has helped me shortcut a lot of the things that I think I would have eventually maybe uncovered some of that on my own, but having access to these people has just sped that up for me so much more. Talking to, again, like Ian, talking to, again, like I just had a really long conversation the other day with Jason, and I'm hoping to get him on the podcast at some point, but like Jason down over at Critical, like just, I don't know if there was necessarily like, I've had like a couple of moments that felt like level ups, but I think each conversation has just helped boost me a little more and a little more and a little more and a little more. And sorry, like I know I get passionate. I'm trying to keep myself tame because it's somebody else's like show.
No, I love it. I want you guys to talk. You're my guest.
I don't know. I just love cEDH. I don't know how. I don't even know what I'm trying to say at this point. Like I just love the game. It's fun, and I do think that I've had like those moments where I feel like I've leveled up, but I feel like they come in waves. Like huge level up, small level ups. Huge level up, small level ups, and like it's just kind of went like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. It wasn't really until I did like I don't know. I really felt like when I was talking in my first video, like that's when I was able to explain those, like the level up moments. I was like, because I was able to say like, oh, like playing Rog Thras and playing against Rog Thras taught me how important flash speed was, you know, to winning. Or playing something like Tim and Dargo helped me understand the power of these Mardu cards, you know, in a deck like Blue Farm, and say like, oh, the creature plan is actually really, really strong, and it doesn't get talked about. It often gets like downplayed as being a super bad plan. And maybe if you're trying to win as quickly as possible, that's true. Sometimes having access to like these mid-range creatures is incredibly powerful and makes a huge impact on the game. So, and I agree. I think for me, the biggest level up moments I have is being able to play against these top players and like have tournament games in high stakes scenarios where I get to see them play at their best. Like one of the first times I had this happen was I went to New York for like a family vacation, and I just randomly hit up Jorman, who's one of the really, really strong players in the East Coast. And I was like, hey, I have some friends who know you. Like, I'm in town. Are you free to play a couple games? And I went over to his friend's apartment, I think, and I met him, and I met another dude. And then there's another California player named Alex Lien, who was really big in the scene last year. I think he took a break this year, but one of the best players I've ever played against. And just getting to play with those three people and just have like some fun games where we're all eating food and like hanging out. It was like watching, like that's the first time I associated playing cEDH with like watching a creative outlet or watching like someone make music or do art. Like watching how their brains worked and how they got to think about the game and play the game just changed everything in terms of how I saw it. And it's the stuff I've really enjoyed the most. And that's I think why when you start to play tournaments, they become so interesting and so like fascinating is you get to have a little bit more on the line and you get to see people play, I would say like play at their best. Whereas sometimes in casual games and like casual EDH, people are kind of just like fucking around and they're like, there's nothing on the line. There's, you know, I'm just here to play my deck and do what it's going to do. And I'm not really as involved in politicking and wanting to talk about stuff. I'm just like, this is what I'm doing. Here's my, you know, whatever. And then someone counters you and you're like, why'd you do that? So anyway, like getting into cEDH, I think like we were talking about is sort of this natural human condition that we have to strive and to become great at something. And it just makes people a lot less salty, which is a common sentiment. I've heard a lot of people say like playing cEDH is more fun than casual because people get so angry and like, you know, salty in casual games for some reason, one reason or another.
I've said this before, and I don't mean this as like a dig at like casual players. I think that the 4-player aspect of it makes it unique. Obviously, like the format itself is unique, but I feel like a lot of people when they play games, like they grow up, they're playing video games. You play against a lot of like these like actual like NPCs or like just like CPUs, like computers, and you're winning all the time. Sure, you may lose. You just hit, you know, restart. You do it again, and then like you win. Everybody, but you get the chance to like, I guess, explore strategies in that and like try different stuff and like, oh, I won, or I lost. Like, okay, I found that this was effective. I felt like in casual, a lot of times, I would say that players don't necessarily want to play a 4-player game. A lot of times people wanted to play like 1-player game and then like 3 NPCs or like CPUs. Like you want to, you want to be the one to have like just enough opposition to make it like interesting, but then you want your strategy to be like the best thing and you just want to win. And it's hard for people to go from, I play a video game and I crush it, I cleared the chapter super easy, next level, to like, if you're actually playing like fair and everybody's playing at the same power, you should only be winning about 25% of the time, which means the majority of the time you should be losing. And I think that if it's hard for people to wrap their brain around that. So then what happens is they make the deck better, and then you kind of like everybody else has to do that to keep up. And then it happens again and again and again and again. And eventually you end up in the space that we are all in. Our rules of discussion has had for us. Like we know that when we sit down at a table, if Chase is on Sisse, I know that he's wanting to combo off and win the game and drain my life total to 0 with some crazy Mount Doom line, or you want to Naz and mill me out and like make me draw a card or like do Thassa. I want to draw the game out as long as possible because Esper doesn't win and hopefully politic a draw. And like but that's what we're doing. Like, but we're all okay if that happens. Like, I'm okay if you win. I'm okay if Chase wins. I'm okay if I win. I'm okay if I lose. A lot of people, I feel like in casual, want to win, but they're not okay with saying I want to win because they feel like there's like a stigma behind it. Like, well, it's a fun casual thing, and like you can still win and things be casual. But I that's one of the things why I love cEDH. It's just the Rule Zero discussion is had for you. We all are like, I mean, you used to wrestle. I know Chase did like Taekwondo and like all sorts of stuff. I've wrestled and did jujitsu. Like, you can still have, even in that, like play rounds and games and stuff like that. But then I also want to test what I've learned. Like, I want to test myself. I want to go in there and like get wrecked a couple times and be like, why am I messing this up? Oh, okay, cool. Now I know. Do better the next time. And then all of a sudden now I'm the one wrecking house, and it's like, I want to test it. I don't want to constantly be playing with like the limiter on. Like, if all I got to do was fun rounds and I never got to actually push myself, I'm going to lose my mind. Yes. And so I think cEDH gives everybody that outlet. Like you said, I don't know. It's interesting to see how everybody's, I guess, journey up to cEDH is different, but I do think that it's just kind of the natural progression. Even one of my buddies that was like the most anti-cEDH person ever, he like literally told me, he was like, I'll never play it. It's stupid. I don't even know why y'all like it. Like, it's like just bashing on it. I don't know if this is appropriate for the channel, but like his exact verbiage, his exact verbiage to me one time was, cEDH is the premature ejaculation of Magic. It's like you're just getting started and then it's over. And I was like, okay, buddy, like, that's fine. And then now he just messaged me the other day and was like, I want to play cEDH. And I was like, yes, you fucking do. Yes, you do.
Yeah. Knew it. All right. Well, I think to close, I would love to ask both of you guys, if you look down the line and you look at like where your channel could be or what you are doing as content creators, like, where would you say would be like a pinnacle or a peak? Like, what is the place you're shooting for? Where do you want the channel to go? What does it look like? What does casting cost look like at, its idealized self, if that makes sense?
Chase, I'll let you go first. I just talked.
Oh, man. I know you just talked, but I think we have a lot of board meetings over this. And I think we kind of go back and forth quite a bit on where it is, because we went from this space of wanting to do like kind of more fun content, something similar to what like Play to Win does, things like that. We kind of utilize them as a model for a lot of what we do. And then we kind of just like almost accidentally fell into this space. And so, but we've really enjoyed it. And I think that as far as like, if I had to say like a pinnacle or what we're truly like trying to do, like, we're obviously still trying to have fun. We want to put content out there that we can make people laugh or people can disagree with us and things like that. Yeah. But we want to have open discussions. We want to push people into this format with this mindset of like, not just like it being a positive space, but you can truly have a fun, enjoyable experience and get a lot out of it, whether it is that you are just starting out or you've been playing it for a while. And so I think that I know for me personally, like, I've always been very big on like how we've kind of talked about like some of the theory crafting stuff and like some of the more niche details on things that a lot of people aren't really focused on or thinking about. So I think it's a lot of like just kind of informing and educating people on those things. And from the perspective of two people that they see these things, but maybe they aren't fully on the inside of all of it. I said in one of our first episodes, we are two simple guys from Kentucky. And so I think that we've kind of continued to carry that. And I think as long as we have that as well, and it showcases like that we're still trying to have fun while we're taking the format seriously, that's where I want to be. I just want to inform people and have fun while we're doing it.
I'll take it back to like the agency thing. I feel like my biggest thing is I just want to be present in the space. Like, I want the channel to obviously like continue to grow because it opens up more opportunities for us to connect with other people that we may not always have access to. And it's not for like a weird, I can talk to this person and normally people can't. It's more so like I want to make connections with people in the space because I love Magic, but I love the Gathering so much more than I think I could ever actually love the game. Like if this was not a 4-player like game and I wasn't able to like, if people just said, no, you can't talk, you gotta, I would be gone. I'd be like, fuck this, I'm gone. Too. Like I love the gathering. I want to be able to connect with as many people as possible. I want to help people connect with as many people as possible. I want to have, I guess, like agency in the space. I love this space. I love the people that I've met. And so I want us to be in a position to where if something was ever going to hurt this space, we would have the ability to have some sort of influence or say in the space to keep this around. Like if somebody was saying we are disbanding the format, I would want to be able to say, hey, no, I don't think you should do that. And here's why. And then have people that we could lean on to be like, look at all these people that love this format. Look at all these people that this gives them a place to be social and to connect and to interact and build relationships and have fun and, you know, have that creative outlet. I just want to make sure that this space is like secure for people as long as it can be. And I think to me, that's the biggest thing. I don't care if I ever end up doing this full time, like content creation. I don't care if I make a dime off of the content creation stuff. I don't care. And I don't think Chase cares either. I want cEDH to stay around and us to be able to play cEDH and connect with people and to allow other people to connect as well. And so if that happens and that keeps happening, then I feel like we're doing the right thing. Even if it's not like we're 1 million subscribers and we're the biggest content creators. If there's 20, if there were 2,000 people that watch our stuff and they really like our stuff, then I know that I have 2,000 people that even if Wizards right now was like, disband the format, it's gone. There are 2,000 people that I could lean on and be like, let's play some cEDH.
Yeah.
It ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like you guys are living the embodiment of what you want the channel to be right now. You know, it's like a way that you can be a part of the format, be a positive influence on the format, and help educate people that are new, people that are already in franchise, and just kind of contribute to the culture that is cEDH. So that sounds awesome.
Hell yeah, dude.
What about for you? Where's the ultimate goal of all this?
Zach. Quick question.
Flip the script for me. That's a really good question. I wonder who came up with that. No. So I think for me, it's always been about being as authentic as I can here, being just myself and contributing my perspective to the pool of knowledge and ideas that are floating around. A big part of why I did coaching was just so that I could help people get better at the game. Make new inroads for people who are newer into cEDH or people that are already in it who want to, go to that higher level and play at the highest level possible, right? And play these gigantic tournaments and try and climb a leaderboard. And so the goal of the channel is really to be as educational and informative as possible, kind of like what you guys were saying. And I hope that it can be built into a place that is really receptive to the community, listening to what people want, having a pulse on it, and being able to talk about things that I just don't see getting talked about as much. That's been a really big part of what I'm doing is, like I said, with a competitive chess background and wrestling and jiu-jitsu, I have a lot of ideas about it and ideas about cEDH. And I really hope that a big part of the channel can be diving more into theory, being able to talk about how we play and why we play rather than the cards we play, and saying like, how as a player do you get better? And how as a player do you change how you think about stuff and improve as a person and as a Magic player. So the ultimate pinnacle for me for bite-sized Magic is just to help as many people as possible, to have fun while doing it. It is absolutely not to become a celebrity. I don't want to do this because I don't want to be famous. That's not at all the goal. It really is, and it will always be to increase how good the game is, because I do love it so much and I've found so much joy in playing. So if I can help other people find that, if I can make people better, if I can make people love the game as much as I do, then that's pretty much the ultimate goal is doing that. So yeah.
Heck yeah, dude. Mm-hmm. I honestly think, and it may seem biased, but I literally think that your channel is honestly like one of the best ones that is out there right now. If you're looking to get better as a player, like you make things very entertaining, but you also come at things from this very serious. Like it's serious, but it's entertaining at the same time. And then it's the same way, like you strike the nice balance of like you are reputable enough in the space. Like you are a very good player, but you also don't take yourself too serious to where like it's just super dry and it's like I couldn't watch you. Like you strike this perfect balance. So like every time I watch a video, I don't know, I feel like I do learn something. Even if it's not the whole video, I'm getting something out of it. There will be little moments where I'm like, boom. And some videos, it's like the whole time I'm watching it and I'm like, I'm learning how Zerta works. I've never knew what Zerta did. You know, but I definitely think that your channel is like one of the best ones that I like is out there in the space right now. And I'm actually really excited that you've been growing so much. And I'm excited to like see you continue to grow because I think you're going to end up being like one of the biggest people in this space.
That's so sweet to say. Thank you. And ditto. I love what you guys are doing. And also the level of conversation and the kind of conversation that we've had both of these times has been like some of the most fun I've had talking about it. And it also doesn't feel at all like it's a video. Like it's just me chatting with two buddies about a game we all really like playing. So yeah, I see what you guys are doing and I really am, you know, pretty thrilled with how it's going.
Hell yeah.
And thank you. I really appreciate you saying that.
Well, and thank you for having us on here tonight. And
Yeah.
you know, I wholeheartedly agree with Blake. And you know, I think while all that is being said, you know, I know you're probably gonna wrap things up, but I'm just gonna throw it in there anyway. If you have not subscribed to this man, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Just go on ahead and do that, please.
Do it.
Do it. Yeah,
It's
and
free.
we'll be.
It literally costs
It
you
is.
nothing.
It's just a
and
button
it
on your
helps.
screen. Yeah, ditto. And when we do this, there'll be a little button, and it'll have both of our channels, and you can just go click, click, easy peasy. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. Again, super fun to chat. Really great to talk. I'm about to go get ramen with all of my housemates. I'm pretty freaking pumped about that. It's only
dude.
6 o'clock here, so the night is young. And yeah, hope you guys have a great evening. Thanks again for chatting. And yeah, as you guys say, go play some Magic.
Go play some cEDH.
That was a blast. Huge thanks to Blake and Chase from Casting Costs for jumping on the channel and chatting with me about the meta. These kinds of conversations are some of my favorite to have, and Blake and Chase are just two amazing dudes. I cannot recommend their content more. If you want to win this week's giveaway, just like last week's winner who won Wayne's Zerta deck from Mana Vault Proxies, all you have to do is be a bite-sized subscriber and comment your favorite moment from this video or a question you have for Blake and Chase. We're going to be giving away a token pack from two of the artists who've worked with this channel, Clone Gwyn and Mox Altars. We love their art. They're all over the channel. All these little figurines you see, they're part of the art they've done, and we want to support them as much as we can. So we're going to give away a token pack, and make sure you go check them out if you like the kind of art they're doing. We'll announce the winner in next week's video. Please go check out Casting Costs. Make sure to subscribe to them. Like I said, these are such good guys. I love chatting with them. I feel like we've become buddies just over the internet, and I can't wait to hang out with them in person. But make sure to go follow them, like and subscribe on their videos. Secondly, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment anything that you have opinions about or ideas about. I've really appreciated everyone who's reached out to me about the channel and helped us get better. It means the world to me, and it's so cool to be being able to chat with subscribers and, you know, get to know you guys better. So anything you have, feel free to drop it in the comments. That's going to be all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.